Good evening. You're watching the news at 6 with me, Shan Russell, and we were just bringing to you live our uninterrupted broadcast of Prime Minister Narendra Modi launching the Digital India Week, unveiling his government's initiative and his roadmap to digitize India today. He launched the Digital India Week in the national capital with a plan to empower billions with information technology. 31 Gram Panchayats across 14 states are participating in the Digital India event through web conferencing as well. The scheme aims to connect all Gram Panchayats by broadband internet, promote e-governance and transform India into a connected knowledge economy. State-run BSNL has announced major initiatives for connecting India through the internet. The government hopes that the scheme will generate a huge number of IT, telecom and electronic jobs. Several industry leaders pledged support to the initiative as well, announcing investments and contributions to make the scheme a grand success.
Normally, industry moves faster than government, but with Digital India, it is different. I have no hesitation in saying that government has moved faster. We at Reliance will invest over 250,000 crores across the Digital India pillars.
We plan to invest an additional $7 billion over the next 5 years in areas such as network rollout and enhancement, broadband implementation, and Wi-Fi deployment. We also look forward to launch a mobile wallet and a payment bank that will seamlessly integrate our businesses in 3 sectors, those of telecom, financial services, and retail.
TCS today employs over 300,000 people in the digital world. We hope to recruit an additional 60,000 people within this year.
And our correspondent Vishal Dhaya was at that Digital India event launch as the Prime Minister launched it. And let's go across to him to get from him. We just heard what the Prime Minister had to say. But in summation, the big major points, Vishal, what would you say they were?
Ishan, can you repeat your question, please?
Yes, Vishal, I was asking which were the main points, if you talk about the Prime Minister's speech at the Digital India launch of the Digital India Week, what would be certainly the big takeaways? He's talked about inclusion, he's talking about taking banking to the Gram Panchayat level, broadband connectivity would increase, digital highways he's talking about. So in terms of the big message from the Prime Minister, what would you say that was?
Well, the big message from the Prime Minister and specifically this entire event out here seems to be that the entire concept of Digital India would be an all-encompassing concept wherein it would include almost all services which can be provided by the government to the citizens. Those have to be digitized to ensure that the delivery is better. Also, to ensure that the kind of trouble which is faced by the common people for accessing several government services, be it in the health sector, education sector, or maybe other sectors, that is in a way simplified. Also, another very important facet of the event out here is the participation of the industry. Now, small speeches which were made by at least a dozen, leading businessmen who are industry leaders in India and several from, other countries as well. The estimate which the Prime Minister himself pointed out seems to be that those industry leaders would be investing at least 4.5 lakh crore rupees in the Digital India drive, and that would result in generation of 8 lakh jobs. So obviously this is also going to generate more employment. This is going to in addition to connecting people, this will be a big the sector wherein the youth will get more employment. One very important point which has been made by the Prime Minister in his speech is also about ensuring that it is not only make in India but design in India as well. So apparently the Prime Minister seems to be hinting that beyond making in India, the Indian youth will have to go a step further and also innovate, design and sort of mark his or her presence on the global stage as far as digital concept is concerned.
All right, Vishal, we'll leave it over there. Vishal, they are, of course, keeping a track of that event as it unfolds in the national capital. That big Digital India launch was, of course, the focus story for us over the past 2 hours. But moving on now, in an effort to reduce dependence on monsoon for agriculture, the centre today approved a scheme providing irrigation facilities to every village. The Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana was cleared at the cabinet meeting this morning, which was headed by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The cabinet approved convergence of the ongoing schemes being implemented by various ministries for this ambitious project. Presently, 65% of the total 142 million hectares of cultivable farmland in the country is still not covered by irrigation. The cabinet also approved setting up of an online national agriculture market to provide more options to farmers for selling their products. In other major decisions, the cabinet extended ban on onion hoarding for another year. The order has been extended as onion prices in both wholesale and retail markets have started increasing once again. Now, a focus story for this evening. The Supreme Court today adopted a tough stance over a Madras High Court judgment in a rape case. Referring to the court's order granting bail for mediation between a rape accused and the victim, the Supreme Court called it a compromise on the dignity of a woman while ruling out mediation in such cases. Now, the Apex Court made its observations in the context of yet another judgment involving a rape case from Madhya Pradesh, where a man was convicted of raping a 7-year-old. The court has said, and I quote, "These are crimes against the body of a woman, which is her own temple. These are offences which suffocate the breath of life and sully the reputation. There cannot be a compromise or settlement, as it would be against her honour, which matters the most. It is sacrosanct." The Madras High Court's order was issued in a response to an appeal and a bail plea from the convict, who was sentenced to 7 years and was slapped with a fine of 2 lakh rupees by a women's court in Tamil Nadu in 2002.
Now, when the Supreme Court has specifically said that these compromise should not be considered as the dignity of a woman holds the priority, so what I think is, as per the court observation, now the punishment in the rape cases, which initially used to be sometimes reduced to several years because of the compromise between the parties, the courts now will not consider those compromises between the parties while giving or while imposing the punishment on the accused persons.
All right, to understand how this really impacts as far as rape cases and the legal proceedings go, we're joined by Priya Hingorani, senior lawyer, Supreme Court. Thank you very much for coming in, Priya. But just to understand in terms of the context, how important is this in terms of how courts and judges handle rape cases?
I think it's very important observation which the Supreme Court has made, and we have all been feeling very agitated ever since this order of the Madras High Court has come, because the law is very, very clear. If there's a rape case, if the rape has been committed on a lady, her dignity has been compromised. There's no question of any compromise or a settlement in these kind of cases. There has to be a punishment. There have been exceedingly large number of cases which have come out now, and thanks to the media, which are being reported on a daily basis, which clearly shows how bad the mindset in our country is and how bad it is that these crimes are happening on a daily basis across the country.
All right, so in terms of a precedent, Priya, do you think it really addresses this issue of the mindset that you often raise, that ultimately even the honourable justices of courts are also, after all, parts of our society as well, and often have been handed down what many would call a cultural context, or whatever you might call it, conditioning. But in that sense, how does one differentiate? Because as far as law is concerned, should it become stricter? Should laws be changed around that such a case cannot, or such a plea cannot be entertained as well?
No, we have good laws, we have enough laws. It's the question of how quickly the cases are dealt with in courts. Unfortunately, the district courts, the law courts are overburdened with kind of the cases, rape cases. They are in court. The trial takes a long time. We have been requesting the courts to have more courts, more judges, make this fast track, especially the rape cases, should be immediately fast-tracked at every level. The prosecution has to do its homework well. The police investigation is very shabby at times. Till they really need to put their house in order. The fact that this kind of an order sends a very, very wrong signal to the rapists, to the people who are accused of rape, because they feel they can, to get bail or to get a lesser sentence, they can offer marriage or they can offer to stay with the lady, which is complete no-no, completely not acceptable, because the person has misbehaved, compromised with her dignity, and there's no question of a compromise in such a situation. The High Court's order has really should be challenged in the Supreme Court. There's no question of a mediation. The Supreme Court has sent the right signal, and I think this should be taken seriously by all the courts.
All right, but this is not an isolated incident. I mean, in terms of what the High Court had said, what the Madras High Court had said, there have been various other examples, and in the story that we read before we came and spoke to you, also mentioned one of those particular cases. So, in terms of such pleas by rapists, by convicted rapists, about a compromise, about mediation, do you think, in that sense, had this been happening at a large scale, and do you think now perhaps that wouldn't happen anymore?
No, I wouldn't say it's been happening at a large scale, but yes, in the last few years, this has been an attempt by the parties, by the accused who have been convicted, to get out of the punishment, to get out of, or to even get out of jail, to take bail. This has been a ploy, or this is maybe one isolated case or two isolated cases where it's genuine that the girl has consented and they agree to marry. But that is under the law it is punishable. It's one of the most heinous crimes on the dignity of a woman. There's no question of a compromise and settlement. So they can't be. So even if there are one or two isolated cases which have happened, the courts should not accept it and should not allow it.
All right, Priya, we'll leave it over there, but thank you very much for coming in and helping us understand the ramifications of what the Supreme Court had to say about this particular matter. Thanks so much for that. Well, on that note, we'll take a very quick break. Lots more coming up on the other side of the station. Welcome back. You're watching the news at 6. Some international news now. And after Greece missed the IMF deadline, Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras has offered new concessions to the creditors. Reports suggest that Tsipras is willing to accept most conditions that were on the negotiating table before the talks collapsed. Two key Eurozone meetings are expected to take place later today to discuss aid for cash-strapped Greece.
Greece formally fell into arrears with the IMF after missing the deadline for a €1.5 billion payment on Tuesday, which meant the country no longer has access to billions of euros in funds. Following the crisis, the Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras has come to negotiation table offering new concessions. Reports suggest that Tsipras has sent a letter to the Eurogroup in which it says he is prepared to accept most conditions that were on the table before talks collapsed. However, the German finance minister said that the new offer by Tsipras lacks clarity.
Einigermaßen ergebnislos dann abgebrochen worden, weil es dann ein bisschen verwirrend war, was ist denn eigentlich gemeint und was ist gewollt. Dann wurde gesagt, es wird ein zweiter Brief geschrieben, der ist inzwischen eingetroffen, der hat aber auch nicht für mehr Klarheit geschafft.
Asking for a new program is always possible. Greece is a member of the Eurozone, it's a member of the ESM, and it can ask for financial support. That is quite a procedure to go through. The institutions will again have to do a lot of work on that.
France, meanwhile, said that it will keep pushing for a deal between Athens and the rest of the Eurozone before a referendum on Greece, which is due on Sunday. On the streets, anger and frustration mounted, even as nearly 1,000 banks reopened for pensioners. Greece became the first developed country to miss the IMF deadline and falling to a default. Only 3 other countries are still in arrears to the IMF: Sudan, Somalia and Zimbabwe. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And despite fears, Greece's default didn't make an impact at the markets at all. In fact, the Sensex jumped 240 points to end above the 28,000 mark again. Nifty also gained over 80 points to settle above the 8,400 mark. Asian markets also made gains as investors gave a resigned shrug to news Greece had become the first developed economy to default. The Nikkei share average rose 0.5%, while the broader Topix gained 0.4%. In Europe too, shares bounced back. Germany's DAX gained over 200 points in intraday trade. Now, the row over Lalit Modi and his relations with External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj took a new turn today after it emerged that Modi had offered a job to the minister's husband, Swaraj Kaushal. The Congress trained its guns back on Sushma even as the BJP continued defending her.
A fresh controversy has erupted over former IPL chief Lalit Modi's links with External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj. Media reports allege that Modi offered a job to her husband Swaraj Kaushal on 15th April this year but withdrew it less than 10 days later.
He gave a proposal that Mr. Kaushal be appointed a director of the company as an alternate director so he can be present in the meeting in shape of alternate director, which Lalit Modi withdrew.
Swaraj Kaushal also acknowledged that he had been offered a post by the Indofil board, reiterating that he did not take it up. The revelation has given enough fodder to the Congress party, which has again trained its guns on Sushma Swaraj, asking her to come clean on the issue.
Whether it is correct for a family member of a union minister to even consider a job offer from an Indian fugitive who is accused of black money laundering?
This could be prima facie evidence of a quid pro quo. And there's so many wheels within wheels in this case. So it's very clear that an investigation, an impartial investigation, is the immediate need of the hour.
But the BJP stood by its minister, criticizing the Congress for raking up a baseless issue, saying the job offer to Swaraj Kaushal was made in a personal capacity.
But the important question is that this is between two individuals. As far as the government of India is concerned, the BJP is concerned, we are very clear. We are not interested in Mr. Lalit Modi's outputs, his inputs, his tweets. We are only interested in the fact that there are 12 enforcement directorate cases against him. And the finance minister has already said that this is going to be the focus.
The Congress party also sought to pressurize the BJP, putting forth 6 demands that includes making public the minutes of a meeting that purportedly took place between Sushma Swaraj and UK High Commissioner James Bevan. The party says it was in this meeting that the minister favoured grant of travel documents to Lalit Modi. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, the Comptroller and Auditor General of India has red-flagged the Delhi government in its annual report for the year 2013-14. The report says several of its departments are in a mess and have not been performing as they should have. The report shows school children in Delhi are not getting midday meals and the number of dropouts are also increasing. Most of the food samples tested have also been found unhealthy. More in this report.
The Delhi government does not have any evidence to show that grants worth nearly 6,000 crore rupees given by it were utilized for the intended purpose, even 10 years after the amounts were given. This is among the most shocking findings of the CAG on the national capital's finances for the year 2013-14. The annual report, which was tabled in the Delhi Assembly on Tuesday, also points out under-assessment and short levy of revenue to the tune of 905.66 crore rupees in more than 2,000 cases.
CAG's reports play a very, very important and vital role in ensuring public financial accountability. For the last 3 years, total receipts and disbursement of the government has undergone some increase. Last year we are talking about, year ending March 2014, the total receipts were 32,946 and disbursement was 34,051 crore. Figures are in crore.
The report further points out at serious discrepancies in the implementation of a number of social welfare schemes. These include the vital midday meal scheme, the MLA local area development scheme and welfare schemes for persons with disabilities. The CAG also found unrealistic budgeting and deficient financial management by several institutions, including the Urban Development Department and Delhi Tourism and Transport Development Corporation. The auditor also rapped the Sanitation Department, stating that civic agencies neither have a perspective plan nor any system for monitoring sanitation services. The Delhi Vidyut Board and DDA also came in for sharp criticism in the CAG report. The report has triggered a blame game between the ruling Aam Aadmi Party and the Congress, which ruled the city-state for 15 years.
दिल्ली सरकार का सवाल है। देखिए, हमने 15 साल में दिल्ली के स्वरूप को बदला है। कई बार कुछ क्वेरीज आती हैं जिसका जवाब डिपार्टमेंट बराबर देता रहता है। अगर इतना खर्चा नहीं हम करते तो दिल्ली का स्वरूप नहीं बदलता।
दिल्ली CAG ने कहा है अपनी रिपोर्ट में एक एक इंडिपेंडेंट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, उसने कहा है सीएजी ने कि एमसीडी के पास अपने रखरखाव के लिए, अपनी समस्याओं के समाधान के लिए और दिल्ली की जनता के हित में काम करने के लिए कोई लॉन्ग टर्म प्लानिंग नहीं है, सब एडहॉक बेसिस पे चल रहा है।
Meanwhile, the BJP has attacked the Aam Aadmi Party government for amending the VAT rules, threatening a strike if the decision is not revoked. With Anu Diwan, Bureau Inputs, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, that's all from us. Goodbye.